It's strange how one moment can change everything. You think you're living your life, going through the motions, and then, bam, everything shifts. Not in the way you expect. Not like a sudden storm or some dramatic event, but in the quiet, unnoticeable way that only truly destructive things can happen. It started with a phone call. No warning. No lead-up. Just a number I didn't recognize flashing across my screen one evening as I sat on the couch, half watching a show I didn't care about. I almost didn't pick up. Who calls anymore? We have text messages for a reason. But something made me tap the screen. A gut feeling. I wish I'd ignored it. "Hello," I said, my voice still groggy from just waking up. "Is this James?" The voice on the other end was familiar, but I couldn't place it. I sat up straighter, trying to gather my thoughts. "Yeah, this is James. Who's this?" There was a long pause before the person replied. "It's Mia. We need to talk." Mia? My wife's best friend. I had known Mia for years, of course. She had been there for every family event, every holiday, every birthday party. We all got along just fine. Never a reason to suspect anything unusual. But as soon as she said those words, my stomach dropped. The tone in her voice wasn't right. It wasn't the casual, cheerful Mia I had always known. This was different. This was serious. And she wasn't just calling to catch up. "What's going on?" I asked, suddenly on edge. "Can we meet? I really need to talk to you face to face." At this point, every nerve in my body was on high alert. I had no idea what she wanted, but I felt like I was walking into a situation that could change everything. And I had no idea how right I was. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop just a few blocks away, telling myself it was probably nothing. Maybe she was having relationship problems. Maybe she just needed someone to talk to. After all, we had a good relationship. But the closer I got to the cafe, the more uneasy I felt. When I walked inside, I spotted Mia sitting at a corner table, her back to the wall. She looked up as I approached, her face pale, eyes wide with something I couldn't quite place. "Hey, James," she said, standing up slowly. She gave me a tight smile, but I could tell she wasn't herself. She was jittery, her hands trembling slightly as she tugged at the sleeves of her sweater. I sat down across from her, trying to read her, but I couldn't. I didn't know if she was angry, scared, or something else entirely. "I don't know how to say this," she started, her voice cracking. She cleared her throat and looked away for a second before meeting my eyes again. "I think you need to know what's been going on with Emily." My heart skipped a beat. Emily, my wife. Why would Mia be talking about her like this? "Mia, what's going on? Is she okay?" I asked, my mind already racing with worst-case scenarios. Mia shook her head, looking down at her coffee cup. She wasn't meeting my gaze anymore. She seemed to be wrestling with something she didn't want to say. "James, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think Emily's been seeing someone. Behind your back." I sat there, frozen. The words hit me like a slap to the face. I had to have misheard her. This couldn't be right. "Wait, what? What do you mean seeing someone?" My voice came out harsher than I intended, and Mia flinched. I immediately regretted it, but I couldn't help myself. The shock was overwhelming. "I didn't want to be the one to tell you, but I can't keep this from you anymore," Mia continued, her voice low. "I've seen them together. It's been going on for a while now. They've been meeting up behind your back." I couldn't process what she was saying. Mia didn't seem like the kind of person who would make up something like this. But how could this be true? Emily, my Emily, the woman I had been married to for 6 years, was seeing someone else? It didn't make sense. Not in a million years. "Who?" I whispered, my throat dry. "Who is it?" Mia took a deep breath, as if she was steeling herself for what was to come. She looked me in the eyes for the first time since I'd sat down. "I don't know his name, but I know what he looks like. He's been coming around the house. And, James, I think he's been more than just a friend." I could feel the world around me spinning. Mia's words didn't sink in immediately, but the weight of them was crushing. I kept thinking, this isn't real. This is some kind of joke. It has to be. But looking at Mia, I saw the sincerity in her face, the pain in her eyes. "I didn't want to tell you like this," she said softly, her voice shaking. "But I couldn't stand to watch this happen anymore. You deserve to know." I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. My mind raced in 1,000 directions at once. How could this happen? How could Emily, the woman I loved, the mother of my children, do this to me? But the worst part? The worst part was that deep down, I already knew. I knew something had been off for a while. I had ignored the signs, buried my doubts. convinced myself it was just stress, just life. But now I was forced to face the truth. I didn't say anything to Mia. I couldn't. I just stood up and left. My hands were shaking, my legs were unsteady, but I had to get out of there. I needed to breathe, to think. As I walked back to my car, my thoughts were a jumbled mess. Everything I thought I knew about my life was crumbling in front of me, and I still had no idea what to do next. I don't think I've ever felt that helpless in my life. The moment Mia's words hit me, I felt like I was sinking in quicksand. I had to get out of that cafe, away from her and her pitying eyes. I couldn't even look at her anymore. I had to get back to my car, away from that place, away from everything. I don't know how long I walked, or how I even got back to my car. My hands were shaking, my head was spinning. I had to process what I had just heard, but the more I tried to make sense of it, the more tangled everything became. Emily, she was having an affair. My wife, the woman I trusted with everything, was seeing someone else behind my back. But why? How could I have missed this? I thought we were happy. I thought we were in this together. I felt like I was drowning in confusion. I drove back to our house in a daze, every second of the drive stretching on like an eternity. When I pulled into the driveway, I just sat there, staring at the front door. It was hard to believe this was happening to me. I had always been the guy who avoided drama, the one who kept things quiet, kept everything in line. But now I was facing a reality I didn't know how to navigate. Was this the end? Was I supposed to confront Emily? Did I just leave and start over? What did I even want? I knew I had to face her. The truth wasn't going to go away, no matter how much I wished it would. I walked into the house with no plan, no idea what I was going to say or do. I found Emily in the kitchen, as usual, humming softly to herself while she prepared dinner. It was a normal scene. The smell of garlic and onions filling the air, the soft sound of a podcast playing in the background. But it wasn't normal. Not anymore. She looked up at me when I entered. Her eyes brightened for a second, like she hadn't seen me in a while. "Hey, you're home early. How was your day?" she asked with a smile. Her smile was warm, but it didn't reach her eyes. I could see it now, the distance, the emptiness that had slowly crept in over time. And I hated myself for not noticing it sooner. Why had I ignored the signs? Why had I convinced myself that everything was fine? I stood there, silent for a long moment, before speaking. Mia told me everything. Her smile faltered, and just for a split second, I saw panic flash across her face. It was so quick, but I caught it, and it confirmed everything. "Mia?" she asked, her voice rising with surprise, though it didn't sound completely genuine. "You've been seeing someone, haven't you?" I asked, the words tumbling out of me before I could stop them. My voice was barely more than a whisper, but the weight of them hung in the air like a storm cloud. She froze. Her hands, which had been stirring something on the stove, stopped moving. For a moment, she said nothing. Her gaze dropped to the floor, avoiding mine, and I could feel the silence closing in on us. It was suffocating. The reality of it all was too much. I had to know. I had to hear her say it. "Who is he, Emily?" I demanded, taking a step closer, my voice growing louder. "Who is the guy?" For the first time in our entire relationship, Emily didn't look at me. She didn't say anything. She just stood there, frozen in place. And that's when it hit me. She wasn't going to deny it. She wasn't even going to pretend like I was wrong. She was caught. And for some reason, I couldn't decide if I was more devastated or angry. "I'm sorry, James," she finally said, her voice small, barely audible. "I didn't mean for this to happen, but I've been seeing someone. I thought I could make it work with you, but I don't know anymore." The words were like a punch to the gut. I staggered back, my mind spinning. I thought I could make it work with you? What was that supposed to mean? Was she just giving up on us? On everything we had built together? How long has this been going on? I managed to ask, my throat tight, my body trembling with the rage that had started to burn inside me. "About 6 months," she admitted, barely meeting my eyes. "I never meant for it to go this far, but it just did. I didn't want to hurt you, James. I thought I could fix things at home. But what?" I interrupted, the anger rising in my chest like a tidal wave. "You couldn't fix things, so you decided to cheat instead? Is that what you're telling me?" Her face flushed, and she looked down again, her hands clenching at her sides. I could see the guilt in her expression, but it didn't make me feel any better. It only made it worse. "I didn't know what else to do," she whispered, almost as if she was trying to convince herself. "I wanted to feel something. Anything. I felt so empty, and I thought maybe if I could just feel alive again, things would get better. But they didn't. They just got worse. I couldn't even process what she was saying. I couldn't understand how she could justify this to herself. All these years, I had been here, giving everything I had to this marriage, to her. And now, I was the last person to know. Who is he? I asked again, my voice shaking with fury. Where is he now? Her silence was deafening, but I could see the fear in her eyes. I don't know what you want from me, James. I never wanted to hurt you. I swear I never did. I shook my head, backing away from her, the reality of everything crashing down around me. I don't know who you are anymore, I whispered, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. I don't know if I even know you at all. And with that, I turned and walked out of the house, leaving behind everything I thought I knew. I drove. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't stay in that house. Not now. Not after what Emily had just admitted. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions, each one more confusing than the last. There was rage, yes, but there was also this overwhelming sense of grief. How could this happen? How could she, the woman I thought I knew inside out, betray me like this? I'd always prided myself on being a patient, understanding man, but nothing could have prepared me for this. The rawness of it all hit me harder than I could have imagined. I ended up at a bar, the kind of place I hadn't visited in years. It wasn't much, dimly lit with a row of lonely stools lined up against a long counter, a few disinterested faces scattered around. I wasn't here to drink away my problems or numb the pain. I just needed to be somewhere. Anywhere. Away from her. Away from everything. The bartender glanced up as I walked in, giving me a quick nod. What'll it be? I ordered something stiff, the kind of drink that burns as it goes down. I needed to feel that. I needed something to anchor me in reality because nothing about today felt real. I took the glass from the bartender, my hands shaking slightly, and made my way to a seat by the window. The lights from passing cars cast long shadows across the floor, and I stared at them, watching the patterns shift and change, almost as if the outside world was mocking me. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I instinctively reached for it. I didn't need to look to know who it was. Emily. I had left the house without saying a word to her, too numb to even confront her any further. She was trying to reach me, probably apologizing again. I didn't want to hear it. Not yet. Not now. I tossed the phone onto the table, the buzzing fading into the background as I took another sip of my drink. It burned, but it didn't numb me the way I thought it would. It didn't take away the feeling of betrayal, the weight that had settled in my chest like a stone. But then it buzzed again. And then again. I looked down at the phone and saw not just Emily's name flashing on the screen, but also a few texts from Mia. The moment I saw Mia's name, a shiver ran down my spine. It wasn't just the fact that she had been the one to tell me about Emily. It was the way she had seemed so eager, almost too eager, to share what she knew. Had Mia always known about this? Had she been watching from the sidelines, waiting for the right moment to drop the bomb on me? Or had she been the one to see something I had missed? I picked up my phone, my fingers trembling as I unlocked it. Mia's texts were short, frantic, and clearly written with a sense of urgency that I couldn't ignore. James, I know this is a lot to process, but please, hear me out. There's more. You don't know the whole story. Please, don't let it end like this. Please call me. I stared at the message for what felt like an eternity. More? What could there possibly be that I didn't already know? Emily was having an affair. That was as much of the story as I could stomach right now. But Mia seemed insistent. It didn't sit right with me. I had to know. I texted back, my fingers moving faster than my mind could catch up. What do you mean, there's more? What aren't you telling me? A few seconds passed, and the 3 dots appeared, signaling she was typing. Then, finally, her reply came. It's not just that. There's someone else you need to be aware of. Someone you might not expect. My heart skipped a beat. Who could she be talking about? Had Emily been seeing someone else too? Or was there something else I hadn't even considered? The questions piled up, but none of them made sense. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, and the ground beneath me was eroding faster than I could keep up with. I didn't reply to Mia's message right away. I needed time to process. But time wasn't something I had anymore. Emily's betrayal had cracked open something in me, and all I could do was wait for the pieces to fall. I downed the rest of my drink in one go and stared out the window. The night had swallowed the city, and everything felt distant, like I was looking at my life through a fogged-up glass. When I finally pulled myself together, I left the bar. The cold night air hit my face as I stepped outside, and for the first time all day, I felt awake. Alive, even. It wasn't a comforting feeling, but it was something I could grasp onto. I needed answers. I needed to confront this, head on. No more running. I pulled up to my house, the lights still on, casting a faint glow through the curtains. Emily had to be waiting for me. I didn't know what I was going to say to her, but I was done being passive. Done being the guy who always took the back seat. The man who let things slide because he thought he was doing the right thing. I walked up the driveway with purpose, every step feeling heavier than the last. When I opened the door, I could hear the soft hum of the television in the living room. Emily was there, curled up on the couch. She didn't turn to look when I walked in. She didn't move at all. I stood there for a moment, my breath coming in shallow bursts. This wasn't just a conversation anymore. This wasn't going to be some quiet, calm exchange of feelings. This was the truth, raw and brutal, and I was going to make sure Emily couldn't hide from it. I finally spoke, my voice low but steady. I need to know everything, Emily. I need you to tell me the truth. Now. She turned slowly, her eyes red, her face pale. It was clear she'd been crying. But I didn't care. Not anymore. The woman I thought I knew had already disappeared. James, she whispered, her voice breaking. I never wanted to hurt you. But I didn't let her finish. I wasn't here for her apologies. I wasn't here for her excuses. Who is he? I demanded again, the question hanging in the air between us, sharp and unforgiving. The silence stretched between us like a thin wire, taut and trembling. Emily's eyes were wide, her lips parted, as though she was searching for the right words, but nothing came. I stood there, rooted to the floor, watching her, my anger simmering just below the surface. But there was something else too, something darker, a gnawing sense of betrayal that ate away at my resolve. She had broken something inside me, and now, standing in front of me, she seemed like a stranger. My wife, the woman I had loved for years, was just someone I didn't recognize anymore. I took a step closer, my voice barely more than a whisper, but the weight of it felt like an accusation. Who is he, Emily? Tell me. I have the right to know. Her eyes flickered, like she was considering her next move. Maybe she thought she could still convince me to soften, to let her explain. But I wasn't interested in excuses anymore. I wasn't interested in hearing her plead for forgiveness. I needed the truth. And I needed it now. I can't, she said, her voice shaking. She lowered her head, looking at her hands clasped in her lap. It's not that simple, James. I clenched my fists, feeling my nails dig into my palms as I fought to keep my composure. What's not simple, Emily? You've been lying to me for months. Months. You've been seeing someone behind my back, and you can't even tell me who it is? She swallowed hard, her throat working as though the words she was trying to speak were choking her. It's not what you think. It's not about just him. I narrowed my eyes, my patience starting to thin. Then explain it to me, because right now, I'm about 2 seconds away from walking out of here and never looking back. If you care about this relationship at all, you'll tell me what's really going on. Emily flinched at my words, but still, she didn't speak. She just stared at the floor, her eyes welling up with tears. And in that moment, I almost believed her. I almost believed that maybe she was feeling guilty. Maybe she was truly remorseful. But then I remembered everything she had done, everything she had hidden from me. I took another step closer, feeling the weight of the situation crash down on me. The house we had built together, the life we had crafted, everything had been a lie. A web of lies I hadn't even known I was caught in. I deserve to know, Emily, I said, the words forced through gritted teeth. Who is he? Or better yet, who are they? Because I'm starting to think there's more to this than just one affair. And I want the full truth. Emily's eyes darted to mine for the briefest moment before she looked away again. I could see her lips trembling, her body shaking as she sat there, paralyzed with the weight of the lie she had been carrying for so long. James, she whispered, barely audible. I didn't want you to find out this way. I never wanted you to know what I had been doing. But the truth is, it's not just one person. It's two. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Two. I felt the air leave my lungs, the world around me spinning as I tried to process what she had just said. Two. I repeated, my voice sounding distant even to me. How could you? How could you do this? I don't know. Emily choked out, her voice breaking. It just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I thought I could keep it a secret, thought I could keep living this double life. But I couldn't. I couldn't anymore. I stepped back, my mind reeling. Two people? Two people? How could she have let it get this far? I thought I knew her. I thought I knew everything about her, but now I realized how little I actually knew. I had been living in some kind of fantasy, a fantasy she had crafted while I was too blind to see the truth. Who are they, Emily? I demanded again, my voice shaking with a mixture of fury and disbelief. Who the hell are these people? She hesitated, clearly torn between telling me and trying to protect whatever was left of her secret. But she didn't get the chance to stay quiet for long. I need to know, Emily. I shouted, my frustration spilling over. I deserve to know who you've been seeing. Her eyes welled up with tears, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I saw her as the woman I had married, the woman I once loved. But it didn't matter now. I had been lied to, betrayed. It's Mark, she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. And it's Mia. My blood ran cold. Mark, Mia. The two names were enough to send my world crashing down around me. Mark, a colleague of hers I'd met a few times at parties. He was friendly enough, always smiling, always the charming guy in the corner. But Mia? Mia was her best friend. Her best friend. How could they do this to me? I stumbled backward, my head spinning. The room felt like it was closing in on me, the walls pressing against me as though I was trapped in some sick, twisted nightmare. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. How could Emily betray me with Mia? The woman who had been in my home, at our family gatherings, pretending to be my friend? My stomach churned, and I suddenly felt like I was going to be sick. No, I said, shaking my head. No, this is not happening. You're lying. You're just trying to make me feel worse. But Emily just shook her head, her voice trembling. I'm not lying, James. It's the truth. It's been going on for months. Mia knew. She knew everything. She helped me keep it from you. I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't know what to do with this information. Everything I thought I knew about my life was collapsing around me, and I had no idea how to rebuild it. I need to leave, I muttered, barely able to process the words. I had to get out. I had to get away from her, from the house, from everything. I turned and walked toward the door, but before I could leave, Emily's voice stopped me. James, please don't go, she pleaded, her voice filled with desperation. I know I've hurt you. I know I've destroyed everything, but please, don't leave like this. I looked at her one last time. She was crying now, tears streaking down her face, but it didn't matter. She had made her choice. And now, I had to make mine. I'm gone, I said quietly, my voice heavy with finality. And this is over. And with that, I walked out the door, leaving behind a life I had once loved. I couldn't get out of that house fast enough. The weight of Emily's confession hung over me like a cloud, suffocating every ounce of air from my lungs. The names she had whispered, Mark and Mia, echoed in my mind, each one more damning than the last. I couldn't comprehend it. I had trusted both of them. I had welcomed them into my home, shared meals with them, laughed with them. And all the while, they had been plotting behind my back. The very people who I thought I could rely on had turned out to be the architects of my misery. How could I have been so blind? How could I have missed the signs? As I drove, I could feel my hands tightening around the steering wheel, my knuckles going white. My vision blurred with tears that I refused to let fall, and my mind raced with 1,000 thoughts, all of them spiraling into chaos. I needed space. I needed time to think. But most of all, I needed to be far away from the place that had once felt like home. I didn't know where I was going, but the road seemed to stretch out before me, endlessly. Each turn felt like a new chapter in this nightmare, and I couldn't escape. I finally found myself driving toward the beach. It was a place I used to go to clear my head, a place where I could breathe and think without distraction. I parked my car and stepped out into the cool evening air, the saltwater breeze hitting my face, but it didn't help. I still felt like I was drowning. The waves crashed relentlessly against the shore, their rhythmic sound a haunting reminder of how unstoppable life was, even as my world was falling apart. I walked along the sand, kicking the grains beneath my feet, trying to ground myself in something real. But the truth kept hitting me, wave after wave, each one more overwhelming than the last. Emily and Mia. Mark. I couldn't stop thinking about them, about what had happened. The betrayal was like a knife lodged deep in my chest, and I couldn't pull it out. I wanted answers. I wanted closure. But I also didn't know how to handle the truth I had just learned. I had been married to Emily for 6 years, and in those 6 years, I had trusted her with everything I had. And now, everything I thought I knew about her was shattered. It was like staring at a mirror, only to have it shatter into 1,000 pieces, each fragment showing a different, distorted version of reality. I couldn't do this. I couldn't go back to that house. I couldn't face her, not now, not when everything felt like a lie. I wanted to scream, to punch something, anything, to release the anger that was bubbling up inside me. But there was nothing to hit. Just the sand and the ocean, indifferent to my pain. As I stood there, my mind swirling with questions, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, half expecting to see another message from Emily, begging me to come back, promising it was all a mistake. But it wasn't Emily. It was Mia. Her message was short, but it hit me like a punch to the gut. James, I know you're angry, but please hear me out. It's not what you think. I never wanted to hurt you. I stared at the message for a moment, then tossed my phone back into my pocket. I wasn't ready to deal with Mia yet. Not after what she had done. After everything she had told me, I wasn't sure I could even look her in the eye. She had known about Emily's affair, had helped keep it a secret, and yet she still had the audacity to ask for my understanding. It was too much. I turned away from the water, heading back to my car, but something stopped me. A part of me was still clinging to the hope that maybe there was some explanation. Maybe Mia had her reasons. Maybe there was something I wasn't seeing. But deep down, I knew that hope was just a lie I was telling myself to avoid facing the truth. The truth was that Emily and Mia had betrayed me, and nothing was going to change that. I didn't know how long I sat there in my car, parked near the beach, staring out at the water. My mind was numb, disconnected from everything around me. I was frozen in place, unable to move, unwilling to face what came next. What was I supposed to do now? How was I supposed to move on from this? As the night stretched on, I finally made the decision to leave. I couldn't stay in that town anymore. I couldn't stay in that house. I needed a change. I needed distance. And as much as I hated it, I needed to face the reality of what had happened. I pulled out of the parking lot and drove into the night, not caring where I was going, just knowing that I had to keep moving. The city lights blurred as I drove through the streets, everything around me feeling like a distant memory. I had been married to Emily for 6 years. 6 years that had meant everything to me. But now, that life felt like a dream that I could never return to. It was gone, taken away by the very people I had trusted the most. And now, I had to rebuild from the ground up, but the question was, could I ever trust again? I didn't have the answers. Not yet. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going back. The road stretched out before me, long and unending, like a metaphor for the distance between who I was and who I had become. The truth, sharp, jagged, and unforgiving, had been shoved into my face, and now there was nothing to do but move forward, even though I didn't know where forward led anymore. I didn't go back to my apartment. I didn't even think about it. The house, the life I had built, felt like a foreign place now. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I drove, eyes fixed on the road ahead, my mind too clouded to focus on anything else. The quiet hum of the engine was the only sound that kept me from spiraling. I wasn't ready to go home, and I didn't want to face the consequences of what had happened. I needed time to breathe, to think, and to understand just how everything had gone so wrong. Somewhere between driving aimlessly and my thoughts spinning in endless loops, I found myself pulled into a small, roadside motel. It wasn't much, just a single story with flickering neon lights, a parking lot that looked like it hadn't been paved in decades, and an air of neglect that somehow fit my mood. It wasn't a place I would normally stay, but tonight, it felt like the only choice. The clerk at the front desk didn't even look up as I handed over cash for a room. I wasn't looking for comfort, just a place to sleep, to put the world on pause for a few hours while I figured out what I was supposed to do next. The room was sparsely furnished, a bed, a small nightstand, and a faint smell of stale air. It was nothing more than a place to crash for the night. But as I sank onto the bed, staring at the cracked ceiling, I realized that it wasn't just the motel room that felt empty. It was me. I should have been angry, furious even, but the rage that I had felt earlier had faded, leaving something worse in its place, a profound emptiness. The kind of emptiness that only comes when everything you thought you knew has turned out to be a lie. I had spent years trusting Emily, believing in her, in us. And now, there was nothing left but the cold reality of what she had done. I closed my eyes, trying to push the images out of my mind. Emily's face, pale and broken, pleading with me to stay. Mia's frantic messages, trying to justify the unjustifiable. Mark, the stranger I had once smiled at, shared pleasantries with. Now the symbol of everything that had been torn apart. It was like a jigsaw puzzle that had been carelessly ripped to pieces, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't put it back together. The phone buzzed again. Another message from Mia. I ignored it. Another one from Emily. I ignored that too. I didn't want to talk to either of them. I didn't want their apologies or their explanations. What was the point now? Everything had already been broken, and there was no mending it. As the hours passed, I found myself drifting in and out of sleep, only to be awoken by the same relentless thoughts. The betrayal, the lies, the deceit. My life had been upended, and there was no clear way to get back on track. I woke up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat. My phone was buzzing again. This time, I reluctantly picked it up, not even sure who it was at first. But when I saw the name, I froze. Emily. Her message was brief, but it cut straight through me. James, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please talk to me. I don't want to lose you. I stared at the screen, feeling my heart twist. It wasn't just the words. It was the timing. How could she think that after everything, after all the lies, we could just go back to how we were? Could she really believe I could forgive her? I wanted to throw the phone across the room. I wanted to yell at her, to demand answers, but a voice in my head told me that nothing would change. Her apology didn't mean anything anymore. The damage was done. But then I thought about it. I thought about how much of my life had been entwined with hers. We had built something together, even if it was built on shaky ground. There were moments, real moments, where I had loved her with all my heart. I had given her everything. And now, it felt like I had nothing. Nothing except this hollow shell of a man who didn't know what to do next. I typed out a response, then deleted it. Typed again, and deleted that one too. What was there to say? I didn't even know what I wanted from her. What could she offer now? The trust was gone. The connection had been severed. And yet, in some small, twisted part of me, I still wanted to believe that there was something left to salvage. My thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a knock at the door. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at the door, not sure if I even wanted to answer it. But then the knock came again, this time louder, more insistent. My pulse quickened. Was it Emily? Had she somehow tracked me down? Or was it someone else, someone from my past? My mind raced with possibilities. I stood up, walked over to the door, and hesitated for a second before opening it. Standing there, in the dim light of the hallway, was Mia. My heart sank. What was she doing here? How had she found me? And what did she want after everything that had happened? Mia, I said, my voice flat. What are you doing here? She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mix of guilt and desperation. James, please. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need to talk to you. I need you to understand why I did what I did. I stepped back, shaking my head. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear your excuses. But Mia didn't move. She just stood there, her expression pleading. I never wanted to hurt you, James. I made a mistake. But there's something you don't know. Something that's bigger than you think. I felt a chill run down my spine. Something bigger? What the hell was she talking about? I stood there, staring at Mia, trying to process her words, trying to understand what she was saying. Something bigger? I repeated, my voice rough with frustration. What could possibly be bigger than the betrayal she had already handed me? What could she possibly say now that would explain everything? Mia's gaze dropped to the floor, her eyes brimming with regret. It was clear she was struggling, but her pain felt hollow to me now. I didn't have the patience for her excuses. After everything, how could she stand there, trying to justify her actions? How could she stand there and ask for my forgiveness? I know what you're thinking, Mia said, her voice barely above a whisper. You think I'm just another person who's failed you, and you're right. I failed you, James. But you need to listen to me. Please, just hear me out. I took a step back, my chest tightening with each breath. I wanted to walk away. I wanted to slam the door and leave this all behind me. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the final shred of hope that I could somehow get answers. Maybe it was the small, flickering part of me that still wanted to understand why everything had gone so wrong. Mia took a deep breath before she spoke again, her words coming out slowly. like she was weighing each one carefully. It's not just about the affair. It's not just about me and Emily. It's about something much more complicated. I couldn't stop myself from scoffing, my patience finally running out. Complicated? How could this possibly be more complicated than it already is? You two have been lying to me for months, Mia. You've been sneaking around behind my back, and now you're telling me it's more complicated than that? I know you're angry. You have every right to be, she said, holding up a hand as if trying to calm me down. But please, let me explain. It's not just Emily's fault. There's someone else involved in this, someone you don't know about. I felt my blood run cold. Someone else? What was she talking about? You're saying there's someone else? Another person I don't know about? How many people are you going to drag into this mess? I couldn't help but shout, my frustration boiling over. Mia winced at my words, but didn't back down. Yes, someone else. And it's not what you think, James. It's someone from our past. Someone who you wouldn't expect. The air between us grew heavy, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. Who could possibly be involved in all of this? My mind was already reeling from everything I had learned, and now Mia was throwing another bombshell at me. It was like a twisted puzzle, and every new piece she handed me only made the picture harder to see. Who? I demanded. Who the hell is it, Mia? Just tell me. She hesitated, her eyes darting between mine as if searching for the right way to say it. It's Mark, she finally whispered. For a moment, I couldn't process her words. Mark? The same Mark I had met a few times, the charming guy who had always been so friendly, so polite? The man who had been a guest in my home? The man who had been sleeping with my wife? That Mark? I felt a surge of disbelief wash over me, my hands trembling as I tried to make sense of what Mia was saying. You're telling me that Mark, the guy I thought was just a colleague of Emily's, was part of this all along? Mia nodded, her face filled with guilt. Yes, James. But it's not what you think. I never meant for you to get hurt. I didn't know how to tell you. But Mark has his own reasons, and he's been involved in everything. He's been orchestrating things behind the scenes. I shook my head, my mind spinning faster than I could keep up. Orchestrating things? What are you talking about? What reasons could he possibly have for getting involved in this? He's been sleeping with my wife and you. And you're telling me he has some grand plan? Mia flinched at my words, but there was no denying the truth of what I was hearing. I know it sounds crazy, James, but you have to understand, Mark isn't just some guy. He has connections, power, and he knew exactly what he was doing. Power? I echoed, my voice incredulous. What does that even mean? What kind of power does Mark have? He's just some guy who works with Emily. There's no way he's been pulling strings like this. Mia stepped closer, her eyes pleading with me to understand. You don't get it, James. Mark is connected to people who are far beyond our reach. People who are dangerous. And when he got involved with Emily, he didn't just want her. He wanted something else. He wanted us. I took a step back, my heart hammering in my chest. What do you mean, he wanted us? Mark wasn't just trying to have an affair with Emily. Mia continued, her voice growing more desperate. He was trying to tear you apart. He knew that if he could come between you and Emily, if he could get to you both, he could take control of everything. He was using her, using me, and now he's using you. I stood there, frozen, my mind struggling to catch up to what she was saying. It was all too much, too unbelievable. My life had already been shattered by betrayal, and now Mia was telling me there was something darker behind it all. Mark wasn't just a man who had stolen my wife's heart. He was a player in something much bigger than I had ever imagined. I don't understand, I said quietly, my voice breaking. Why? Why would he do this? What could he possibly want with us? What could he possibly want with me? Mia reached out, grabbing my arm gently, her touch barely more than a whisper against my skin. Because you're the key, James. You're the one thing standing in his way. And now, you're his target. My body went cold. My breath caught in my throat. The entire world seemed to tilt on its axis as the weight of her words sank in. I wasn't just dealing with an affair. I wasn't just dealing with betrayal. I was part of something far bigger. And the worst part? I had no idea how deep this rabbit hole went. The weight of Mia's words hung in the air, suffocating me with every passing second. I stood there, trying to make sense of it all, feeling my chest tighten as I processed everything she had just told me. Mark, Emily, Mia, the lies, the betrayal, the twisted web they had all spun around me. But there was one thing Mia had said that I couldn't ignore. I was the key. For the first time since I had learned the truth, I wasn't just a victim of circumstance. I wasn't just the one left picking up the shattered pieces of my life. I realized I had a choice. I could let this darkness consume me, or I could find a way to rise above it. I could take control of my life again. Mia stood there, looking at me with a mixture of fear and regret. James, I know I've made terrible choices, but I never wanted this for you. I never wanted to hurt you. Please, if you can find it in your heart to forgive me. I looked at her, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel anger. Instead, I felt free. It was an odd feeling, like I had finally let go of the weight that had been crushing me for so long. I didn't need to carry this anymore. I didn't need to hold on to the pain. I had a life to live, a future to build, and it wasn't going to be shaped by the people who had betrayed me. You don't need my forgiveness, Mia, I said quietly, my voice calm and steady. You need to forgive yourself. We all make mistakes, but I've learned that I can't control what other people do. All I can control is how I respond to it. Mia's face softened, and for the first time, I saw a glimpse of relief in her eyes. She nodded slowly, a tear escaping down her cheek. I'm so sorry, James. I never meant to drag you into all of this. I took a deep breath, turning away from her for a moment to clear my mind. The man I was standing here today wasn't the same man who had been broken just days before. I had been given a new perspective, a new understanding of what truly mattered. It was time to let go of the anger, time to let go of the lies, time to take back what was mine. I don't know what the future holds, Mia, I said, my voice firm, but I do know that I'm going to be okay. I'm going to take care of myself now, and that's all I can do. You should do the same. Mia didn't say anything more. She just nodded and turned away, walking down the dimly lit hallway of the motel. I watched her go, knowing she had her own path to follow. But mine was going to be different. I stood there for a moment, letting the silence settle in. The past few days had been a blur of betrayal, pain, and confusion. But now, with Mia gone, with the weight of it all starting to lift, I realized something important. I wasn't broken. I wasn't lost. I was still whole. I was still me. I walked back to my car, feeling the cool night air against my skin. I didn't need to rush anywhere. I didn't need to have it all figured out right away. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt a sense of calm, a sense of peace. It was like the first breath of air after being submerged underwater for too long. I had been given a second chance, an opportunity to rebuild, to grow, to find my own happiness. I drove back toward the city, the streets lit up with neon lights that felt warmer somehow. I wasn't going back to Emily. I wasn't going back to a life that had been built on lies. But I was going forward. For the first time in a long time, I could finally see a future that was mine. A future that wasn't defined by betrayal, but by strength, by healing, and by hope. I didn't know where I was going next. But for the first time in a long time, that was okay. The road ahead was wide open, and I was ready to take it, one step at a time. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.